Have you ever wondered if there is a way to programmatically open a TradingView chart? For example, whenever you want to open a chart, you would go to TradingView website, enter the symbol, change the time frame, add the indicators, change the time zone, and you do all sorts of things. So wouldn't it be nice if there is a way to automate all that, and in the program you can do all that and open the required chart that you want just by the click of a button? So in this video I'll show you how to do that. So this is the website that we're going to build. On the top you see you have an input field where you can select the required symbol, and on the bottom you see the appropriate chart. So if I change it to ETH USD, the corresponding chart opens on the bottom. Okay, so let's see how to build this site. It's actually fairly simple. You can do it in less than like 20 lines of code, and most of it is anyways copy paste, and you'll see that in a minute. So we're going to use a functionality offered by TradingView called as a widget to achieve this result. So TradingView offers a lot of widget. It's a way of allowing developers to use TradingView components in their projects, like including charts, including some sort of a list and all those things. So in this video, we're going to specifically talk about only the first widget, and what customizations this widget offers, and what are some limitations of using this widget, and so on and so forth. So I'll leave a link for this widget in the description box. So here you see the preview of the widget, and on the bottom you see, on the left hand side you see the required code for this, and on the right side you see all the customizations. So when I say customizations, the symbol that you want, the time frame, the time zone, what should be the width and height, and all those things. Okay, so let's first create a very basic example. Just call this code in our use this code to display the chart from our HTML file. Okay, so I've created this folder, TradingView widget, and I'm using brackets as my text editor, and I'm pointing it to that folder, TradingView widget. This works with any editor, but if you watch my other videos, I use brackets because I'm comfortable with it. So I'll create a new file, index.html. Okay, and let me quickly create a basic template and be right back. You see, okay, so this is a very basic template with HTML, head, body, and script tag. So in the body, let's first create this input field where we can pass the symbol. Okay, so select. Control D is to duplicate the line. This is done. Now let's create a function to load the chart. So in the script tag, I'll create a function called load chart. What I'm going to do is, okay, this is the code to render the chart. But if you look at it, you don't understand anything, right? It's just a bunch of text and some commands. It doesn't make any sense. So let's create a empty file, test.html, and I'll paste this code there, and we'll break it down into smaller components. Okay, so if you see this, what's happening here is, first we have to create a div element, and this should be the class of div element, TradingView widget containers. And when we mention this class, that is how the browser would recognize that it has to render a TradingView chart over here. Okay, so, and then inside that container we have to create another div component with ID. We can create with whatever ID as long as we pass that ID over here, the container ID, and then the magic happens and the chart opens automatically. Okay, and all these things are controlled by this particular line. This is where we are passing the TradingView CDN. Okay, CDN stands for Content Delivery Network. So this is the code that offered by TradingView, and we are embedding this code in our project so that it does all the magic behind the scenes and renders the chart for us. Okay, so let me just copy this first and paste it here. I'm going to do a cut paste so that you can see which component is actually being placed, and yeah. Okay, then I'm going to create a div tag, copy, okay, cut, it's a cut paste, cut, my bad, I'm going to cut this. I'm going to create a line break so that there is a gap between the input field and the chart. Okay, so I've created the div tag, then I don't need this line, delete this. I can either create a new div tag or use the same tag with ID. We'll call it TradingView chart. Okay, then I have to cut this. So this is where we are passing all the required parameters to render the chart. Okay, so okay, so here we have to pass the container ID. I'm just going to copy this and paste it here, and I have to call this function when we load the site. That's it. So just to repeat what we did, we included the script tag, the TradingView CDN here, and then we created a div tag with appropriate class and the ID, and then we are just passing the required parameters here and rendering the chart. Okay, let's refresh the page and see if it works or not. Yeah, I'm opening from a folder. Okay, you can see that it works, right? Great. But if I change the symbol, nothing happens, right? Because we didn't link the input field to the function. So to do that, I'm going to create an onChange function. Okay, and onChange, I want you to run the load charts. Okay, and inside the load charts, we have to first get the symbol from the select field and then pass the symbol over here. Okay, so to do that, we'll say symbol, let symbol is equal to document dot get element by id dot value, and the id for the select field is pairs. Okay, so now when the function runs, the symbol variable has the appropriate symbol, and then we have to pass it over here. Okay, so now let's refresh the page, and okay, by default it loads BTC USDT, and if I change it to ETH BTC, great. So ETH, so when I change the symbol, ETH USDT chart opens. So that's it. This is how you can use TradingView widget to render, a TradingView chart programmatically. So this is the basic example. Isn't this really simple? It's very small. It's just 30 lines of code, and most of it is anyways copy paste, right? It's really that simple. Now let's look at some customizations this TradingView widget offers. So first, what you can do is you can pass the symbol. This is obvious, right? We have to be able to pass the symbol, and then we have to specify, we can change the time frame as well. So notice this part of the code. Okay, this from auto size to container ID. Whenever I change something, it gets updated here. So here you can see interval is D, right? So if I change this to 5 minutes, it changes to 5. So this is how we are specifying, in which time frame we have to open the chart. Okay. Similarly, we can change the time zone here. So I operate from India. Okay. So if you can change it to India time zone, UTC plus 5:30, it gets updated here, Asia Kolkata. So you can also use a dark theme or light theme. Let's try light theme, and you can use the candlesticks or Heikin-Ashi candles, all those charts, and you also have an option to pass some indicators. So here you can select show indicators, and you can add required indicators that you want. So I can select awesome oscillator, and let me check if there is RSI, MNOP. It's alphabetic. It's in alphabetic order. So yeah, here is relative strength index, and whatever. I'll use money flow, momentum. Okay, let me use MACD. Okay, so it gets updated here, right? And if I click on apply, if you want to see the preview of your settings, you can click on apply, and it gets updated on the top. So you can see it's opening in 5 minutes time frame, and it added all the indicators, and it's a lighter theme. So let's copy these settings to our chart and see how to do that. So I'll first copy it in the test folder. Okay, and here we have to pass all the settings, right? I'll just copy this and go to my index file. I'll change it here. Yeah, and I have to update the ID here. Okay, now if I refresh the page, okay, another thing, symbol. Yeah, now when I refresh the page, it should open with these settings. Refresh. Awesome. So this works, right? And One beautiful thing about this chart is that I've done a video on how you can display multiple charts on the same screen. You can achieve that functionality using this code. You can create a grid like layout and open one chart in each grid. So to create a multi-chart, to create multiple charts on the same screen. So you can do that as well using this functionality. So there is one drawback using this approach, that is you cannot use your custom Pine scripts. So if you had so on your TradingView widgets, if you go to your Pine editor, you see you have a list of scripts that you created, right? There is no way to pass those scripts. There is no way to pass these scripts in this widget. Okay, you can only pick the indicators that are shown here in the. You can only pick the indicators that are displayed here when you render the chart. So even if there is an indicator which is published, which is in public domain, but it's not listed here, you cannot display it. You can only do it after you render the chart. After you render the chart and click on indicators, search for the indicator and add it. But that is still a manual task, right? So what I'm trying to say is there is no way to pass the either Pine scripts or any public scripts which are not listed here in the widget. Okay, that's a drawback. Okay. One last thing that I want to show before I end the video is how you can get all the Binance symbols and show it here, so that you can open any chart that you want. Okay. So what I have here is the Exchange Info API, and in that API you have a field called symbols which gives all the symbols. Okay, and I can make a REST API call and get the symbols, but it would cause CORS issue and all that nonsense. So I just want to, let me refresh this. I just want to copy this and paste it, because I just need to call it once, right? I just need to get the symbols and I want to include that in the select field. Okay. Info is equal to this. Okay. And I'm going to include this here. Okay, so I've included the Exchange Info file here. Now all I have to do is, when I load the chart, I have to pass all the symbols. Okay, so if you look at this, it's a JSON file. Okay, it's a JSON, and inside the JSON we have to look at symbols. Okay, so where I'll just call sim is equal to Exchange Info dot symbols. Yeah, symbols. Yeah, I'm just going to log it to the console to show you how it looks like. It's an array. Okay, so I'm going to the website, click on F12 to show the debugger, the console. Hit on refresh. Okay, you got all the symbols. So there are 593 symbols. Okay. Now for each sim dot for each, so you can use for each a function to perform some kind of an operation on each field. Okay, so D is the each symbol. Okay, then I'm going to create a field called markup, and here we're going to copy all the options. Okay, for each symbol I'm going to concatenate. Plus equal to is used to concatenate. Okay, I'm going to concatenate each option. Okay, I'm going to place this in string. It's a string. Okay, and then we have to pass the field here, the symbol here. Okay, it's d dot symbol. How do I know d dot symbol? If you go to the info, see inside the symbols array, each one is again a symbol. Okay, so that's why it's d dot symbol. Do the same thing here. Okay, now it collects all the options. Now what we have to do is append this markup to the select field. Okay, so to do that, document.get element by id. The id is pairs. Okay, and then dot inner HTML. Okay, is equal to markup. The reason I used inner HTML is because if you look at all the options, these are present inside the select tag, right? It's a HTML, these options are HTML components that reside inside the select tag, so they should work. Okay, and I can remove these two options from here. Maybe just put BTC, because when I initially load the chart, okay, I can do one thing. Instead of loading it here, I can just load it here. Okay, yeah, and try removing the options and see if it works or not. I'm just commenting it out. We hit refresh. Yeah, it works. So it's opening ETH BTC for now. And if I select this drop down, I can see all the symbols in Binance. Okay, if I select, let's say, XRP BNB, it opens up XRP BNB, and with the time frame that we chose and all the indicators that we added. Okay, that is all I wanted to cover in this video. I hope you found this informative, and I'm planning to do a part 2 of this series where I'll show you how you can include all the available crypto exchanges and all the symbols, where with the click of a button you can select the exchange and the symbol and the chart loads automatically. Okay, yeah.